Now, GBNews can exclusively reveal foreign criminals will be refused entry to the UK or have their visas cancelled in a crackdown on those who are regarded as being a threat to the British public.
But also, as part of a new trial, failed asylum seeker families are to be paid up to £40,000 to leave the UK within 7 days.
Just to remind that figure again, £40,000, that's for a family of four, so that's £10,000 each. So there we are. Why don't we just put a great big sign on the White Cliffs of Dover saying, come on in, stay for a week and we'll give you £40,000 to leave.
It's quite a good holiday deal. It's almost as good as our Great British Giveaway.
It's unbelievable.
Well, joining us now is the former Conservative Immigration Minister Tom Pursglove. Tom, I'm sure our viewers will find this extraordinary, but it has always been the case that sometimes people whose visas have expired or who are here illegally have been paid to leave, hasn't it? But is this an unprecedented amount of money?
Oh, this is completely unprecedented, Miriam, and totally appalling in my view. The idea that the British taxpayer should stand by payments of £40,000 to be given to people who've broken our laws, came to our country illegally, presumably been accommodated in taxpayer-funded hotels, and then sent on their way with £40,000 in their pocket is completely perverse. I think downright offensive, actually. And the other thing that it will do is only encourage more and more people to come. So not only is this grossly unfair on the taxpayer, and I would argue completely unnecessary if ministers were willing to take the steps that were necessary to have a deterrent and to change the laws to remove these people. We wouldn't need to pay them. We wouldn't need to accommodate them. That's what they should be doing. This is downstream trying to solve the problem that you should be resolving upstream.
If you think if you're a pensioner on the basic state pension and you're living on that, what's that, just over £12,000? How are they going to feel to hear that this Home Secretary, who's going to make a speech this morning showing how tough she is going to give family of four £40,000 tax-free?
Well, we hear lots of hype, Andrew, about the Home Secretary, how amazing she is, how she is shifting the dial. I haven't seen any credible delivery that would lead me to conclude that that was the case. And it will be offensive to people who work hard every day, that go out, put a shift in, that don't earn that sort of money. And equally, as you say, pensioners who also have contributed for years and years and years over the course of their lives will be watching this with complete bemusement. But it's no doubt probably part of trying to smooth the ways politically, because we know that in response to what happened in Gorton and Denton last week, that there is mass pandemonium within the Labour Party, feel very squeezed on the left-wing flank. So they're going to be wanting to see how they can try and keep everybody happy. We know that that won't work, but they will be trying to keep voters with a more right-wing persuasion content with what they're doing, as well as trying to keep people on board on the left. And that just isn't going to work. And what you're going to see is these sorts of policy solutions come forward, which will only encourage more people to come.
It's being reported that she's considering this move, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, because this is what happens in Denmark. There's been a lot of focus on the Danish approach to immigration. And indeed, the Home Secretary did actually visit Copenhagen last week, I think it was, to look at the scheme. So if it works for Denmark, could it work for us?
I think it's difficult to draw really meaningful comparisons when you look at volumes of those people coming. But it's also ducking the issue, isn't it? It is ducking the difficult decisions that are so obviously needed in order to resolve this. Because what this is a steady state position that they're accepting. They are essentially accepting that we will continue to have people coming across the channel in small boats illegally. The position that they are putting in place is weaker than that which they inherited. For example, we had put into law that if you came via a small boat, you would be banned from having asylum. They've repealed all of that. So what they're actually putting in place, it sounds good on the face of it, is weaker than the situation that they inherited. And what really the circumstances demand now is that willingness to have a deterrent, like Rwanda, to be able to send people where you can't remove them back to country of origin, and to change the laws when it comes to the ECHR, the Human Rights Act, the Trafficking Conventions, and the Refugee Convention and the like, to be able to remove people who come to this country illegally. I think that's where public opinion very firmly sits on this now, and all the while ministers don't do that. They're going to be out of step with where public opinion is. They're going to continue to become more and more unpopular, but are also going to continue to have this problem materialise because what they're putting in place just isn't adequate to the scale of the challenge.
And if they are going to cherry pick from Denmark, why don't they adopt the other part of the Denmark approach, which is nobody's put into a migration hotel and there's no benefits money, and if they can, they make them pay towards their board and lodge in the camps which they're put into?
Well, quite. And those are the what I would argue would be the better bits of the package.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to the fact that none of this would be necessary if they were willing to do what was required to stop the flow of people coming in the first place. And the only way that you're going to do that is to detain and remove or relocate every last arrival. That sends such a clear message that if you come to the UK, you're not going to be able to stay here, and that's what they should expect to happen. If you don't do that, you're just continuing to tinker at the edges, and there wouldn't be the need for the accommodation in hotels if they were just willing to take that step. And I think public opinion is behind them if they would just grip it and do it.
Well, we'll see what she has to say in this speech. Former Conservative Immigration Minister Tom Pursglove, thank you so much, as always, for joining us this morning.
Every time your phone connects to public Wi-Fi, anyone nearby could snoop on what you're doing. Hackers can steal your information, passwords, photos, and bank details in just seconds. ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. ExpressVPN is so easy to use. With just one click of a button, you're protected. Streaming, banking, or shopping, you can switch between high-speed servers worldwide in seconds, and your connection never slows down. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free, all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your online life today.
Come back to you in a moment. Let's just head over to talk to Alex Norris, who's Home Office Minister. Good morning to you. Can I move us on to the immigration issue? Because I know there are these things being laid out now to say we're not going to allow people in the country if they've got a criminal record up to a suspended sentence of 12 months or anything above that, and we'll remove people who commit crimes, and also that asylum handouts and accommodation will be removed for illegal immigrants who abuse our generosity. At the same time, we're hearing reports that we're going to give families £40,000 to leave the country. That's nothing more than a pull factor, isn't it?
No, that's not true, Stephen. We support a significant number of people in this country whilst they have their claims assessed and whether they get refuge or not. When people fail, we are removing at a record level, but we still have too big of a supported population. That means that we have the issues that we have with hotels. So we are seeking that for those who can work or who have means, they should pay for their upkeep, just as my constituents do and as your viewers do. But similarly, we have people, a cohort of people for whom they've failed at their initial application, they've failed at appeal and do not have prospects of settlement in this country but aren't leaving, quite significant numbers of families. We do, as the previous government does, indeed as there is political consensus on, offer financial inducitives for people to leave. We are piloting increasing that for a small number, 150 families who cost on average, for a family in a hotel, cost on average £158,000 a year. So the British taxpayer gets value for that, and we reduce demand on our services. If it worked for all of those families, it would save us £20 million. It's a pilot, we'll see how that proceeds, but it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Can you appreciate, though, how it makes a lot of people very uncomfortable seeing people being paid £40,000 to leave the country when they, British people, are living and working here, struggling to make ends meet, struggling with the cost of living, seeing their bills go up every single day?
Well, absolutely, and they will see from April cost of living support around their energy bills. They've seen what we've done at the pump, but also I know your viewers get this, that rather than spend £158,000 on people who don't have prospects of staying in the UK, paying them a little bit of money to leave, well, that of course is a good deal, and I suspect that's why that there is broad political consensus on that point, and that is the best value for those taxpayers who of course want to see their hard-earned taxpayers' cash spent as effectively as possible. OK, Minister, appreciate your time this morning.
Can I ask you about something else this morning? Another big story that would have potentially been our lead story, actually, if the Iran situation wasn't going on. And this is Asylum. crackdown, asylum criminal crackdown by the Home Secretary. Lots of things to talk about here, but asylum seekers essentially who break the law or work illegally are to be thrown out of government-funded accommodation and lose their support payments. Tell us a bit more about this plan.
I think this is the Home Secretary finally, in many ways, although she hasn't been in post too long, but waking up and really identifying a point of injustice that I think most British people find about the system here in this country. I think it's going to be really, really tough to do. She will come up against a lot of resistance. And actually, it's interesting, you know, around 12%, slightly adjacent here, but 12% of our prison is filled with foreign nationals, and she will come up against a lot of resistance in terms of.
Well, I mean, these new rules today, as we understand it, any foreign offender who's had a suspended sentence of at least 12 months, which, you know, suspended sentence, plus anything more, either at home or abroad, will see entry clearance refused or revoked. Does that mean we're going to start deporting prisoners?
I think that's very unlikely. And I think that will be unlikely due to lawyers who get involved in it. And there's a lot of money to be made in that game. People underprice that. There's a lot of money to be made in that game. And also, unfortunately, I know she said that we will have to rethink and rejig our relationship with the ECHR. But unfortunately, it would take something more drastic, like leaving it in its entirety, to get that done. But you know what? I watched her interview on GBNews yesterday. I thought she was really good. I think there's a lot of mess around her. There's a lot of mess in the world and competing priorities. There's a lot of mess around in her cabinet. And I think if she was allowed actually to crack on and do the things she wants to do, we would get to a much better state on things like illegal immigration in this country.
She's talking tough, isn't she? Oscar, thank you very much.